here. Like, can you see my window? Started sharing. You can't see my window, can you? No. Zoom is asking me to. Yeah.
You on Catalina, Dan?
Yeah, now it's asking me a bunch of permission checks.
Yeah.
Oh, there it goes. Dang it.
Oh, yeah, we see it now.
Yes. So it doesn't force you to restart, which is
Zoom is good.
nice. Yes, nice. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Oh, I see someone added the pumpkin. Who added the pumpkin? Very cool.
That was me. That was me. Feeling festive.
Very nice. All right, so let's jump in. First thing I wanted to cover real quick is the 1-4 schedule to let everyone know where we are there. We hit the code freeze, and obviously the branch has occurred 10/16. We've done 2 code bashes that have taken place as of October 22nd and October 29th. There's actually links here that will take you to some of the results for that. And you can see here, here's like one of them, the great Istio bug bash. You can see the number.
You're not sharing that tab.
Are you kidding me? This is like a tab-based share? No, that's insane. Really? Can you even see my...
We can see your full browser and all the tabs in your browser.
But you can't see me flip tabs. Right?
No.
That is... all right. Hang on. Maybe there's like some special trick there. Oh, literally it's per tab? Oh. How about I just do the full desktop?
You probably want to snooze notifications because that'll...
Good call.
You just showed all your notifications.
Yeah, but I can turn them off.
Yeah.
You have to see them so I can turn them off.
Top secret IBM secrets are now out. We'll edit those out of the video.
Yeah, there you go. That's fine. Okay, so now you can see it. Now, in that link there, you can see our bug bash. You can see the results as far as the number of issues and who they're assigned to. So obviously, if you're one of the contributors to one of the working groups in the repositories, please, it would be helpful if you could take a look at this and help knock down some of the bugs that are assigned to you. Several bugs have been opened, and the teams are at this point now working through and knocking those down. Sorry to say, networking, unfortunately, has the bulk of them, and that seems to be the case, and it's probably no surprise there. But yeah, working through those. I also found, I learned this week as well, we have these GitHub reports. If you haven't seen those, I found those quite helpful. If you open that up, this actually shows you like a time history of the bugs that have been opened up over time in the areas, and it gives you some really nice views into where they are, how many we have, and basically the trend of them and where they're going. So if you wanted to get like a quick view of the bugs that are opened against the entire project and what areas are open over time, this will give you that view. So I found this quite useful. It's also really nice to see the overall trend. So one of the areas as a community that we're trying to focus on is knocking down the backlog. So anything you can do as a maintainer and a contributor here is to help your team and your working groups scrub your backlog and help to knock down some of these defects in the backlog. And obviously you can see from this graph where we have areas that need more attention than others, and really start looking at knocking these down.
Right, and if you're a community member and you've opened up a defect or an issue a while ago and you notice that hasn't gotten as much attention as you would like, or if you feel like it's a high priority issue, just feel free to just go in there and make another comment or so, and that'll kind of help us kind of reprioritize this better.
Very cool. So as far as the release is concerned, it's still currently planned to be released 11/14. I haven't seen anything that says that date won't be hit. So hopefully we'll see the 1.4 release come out on 11/14. So as far as happenings that are occurring, I didn't see anything outside of everyone heads down getting the release out. I did want to put out a note that we will be doing a pop-up Istio meetup next week. So if you're in Ottawa, Canada, coming out of the US, you could come join us from 6 to 8 on November 5th, which is Tuesday, I believe. There will be a pop-up meetup that we formed quite quickly. I actually have a travel engagement in Ottawa on the 6th, so we took this time to engage with the CNCF event team to set up this event and get a location very quickly. So we're gonna host that that evening. So if you know anyone in the Canada, Ottawa area that you feel would benefit from this, let's get the word out and drive that up. I know in the first few hours or so, we got 25 people registered since it was posted. So hopefully we'll see a lot. Maybe we'll blow out the list there.
It says RSVP are closed.
Oh, is it already closed? It's full?
I don't know.
It's, you need to register for the Eventbrite.
Ah, okay. I was gonna say that would be quite astonishing if it was already full. I did want to bring up, just so people are aware, and if they have comments on this, is something that we've been discussing in the steering committee and also in the TOC a little bit, is the Istio support and how we go about managing support for the community content. Today we're managing at N-1, so it's one release back that would be supported. However, the Kubernetes community supports N-2, so we're a little bit out of sync with what the Kubernetes community supports. And there's some discussion and or concern that N-1 is a little too short. It doesn't leave a lot of a window for enterprise or other customers to adopt and stay on a current version for a period of time before they're somewhat forced to move up. So it really comes down to what is the model that we should support as a community? Do we support N-2? And if so, what's the ramifications on the community to support that many releases, especially in conjunction with the combination of releases with Kubernetes? So don't know if anyone has an opinion on the community call here that they would like to voice, but it is something that we're discussing right now in the steering and the TOC. So any comments are more than welcome. Going once, going twice. Okay, I will tell you that we're strongly leaning towards N-2 and supporting it, but just figuring out how we go about doing that without putting too much extra load on the current teams and the working groups to support that level. Nothing approved yet, but it is something under serious consideration. I also wanted to just point out something else I learned. I didn't know about this, and maybe other people already do know about this, but I did not. I learned about the Istio engineering page, and I found this page quite interesting and useful. I know it's a work in progress. It's not fully developed yet, but I see it as providing some promise for individuals. So if you want to know who's working on the project, the engineering dashboard will give you a view of who's active in the project and what projects or repos that they're active in. So if you're looking for someone in a particular repository, you can actually come here and see who's active in the community and what projects or repos they're active in. So if you want to ask a question. And you can see here there's additional sections here that more content is going to get dropped in. So like the issues section, it's showing you the number of issues that are open per month in the different repositories. So this gives you a nice view of how many issues are there, where are they opening, where is the areas that are getting the most attention or the most issues at any given point in time. And over time, this is going to evolve. It's going to incorporate more information about the project. Here's a view of the performance page. Obviously, it's still under construction, not a lot here, but over time, this is going to show the overall performance test and the test results per releases in this environment. And I'm realizing the colors on the gray don't really stand out all that much.
You can switch to light mode.
I don't like the light mode. I like the dark mode.
Even on Istio.io.
I like my dark mode. I'm sorry, I like my dark mode. And again, you can see there's other aspects in here. These are empty at the moment, but more of this to come out. It'd be interesting if anyone has any thoughts as far as other sections that would be helpful to show in here that would help the community in general. We're definitely open to feedback. What else should be shown in this engineering dashboard to help the community? All right, and with that, we actually have a special guest today. Megan O'Keefe has graciously joined us and is offering to give an update. She's been doing a number of presentations, really great presentations on Istio, and she wanted to come to talk to us about the VM mesh expansion. So with that, I will switch it over to Megan.
Awesome, thanks. Hi, everyone. Let's see. Let me see if I can share my screen here.
Do I need to stop sharing?
Yeah, it says I can't screen share while the other participant is sharing. Okay.
There you go.
Let's see. Is there a way to just share everything? Let's do that. Okay, can everyone see this okay?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Great. So, yeah, so I thought I would sort of give a rundown of how VM mesh expansion works with Istio. And this is intended to be sort of an intro. Full disclosure, this is also what my KubeCon talk is about, and I'm co-presenting on that. So if this is like interesting to you and you'll be at KubeCon, then definitely, yeah, I'll be there too. So great, let's see. So I guess to start, if you don't know this, Istio does have virtual machine support. In our docs, the term is called mesh expansion. We are trying to move away from that term, in part due to like SEO reasons, and also because it's not necessarily very descriptive of what the process actually is. But the idea behind it is you can treat a VM roughly like you would a pod, and actually place the Istio proxy and the node agent for certs inside of a VM, run a service in there, and kind of treat it the same way as you would an injected pod. Why would you want to do this? Really for consistency reasons. So imagine you have an application that has a lot of pods and you are running some sort of stateful or other workload inside a VM, and you kind of want to bring that into the party, as it were, and use Istio traffic rules and do splitting and MTLS and auth-c and all the good stuff Istio gets you for 4 VMs. This would be the reason you'd add it to the mesh. It should be said, like, if you have an external service, you can just add a service entry to your cluster, but that doesn't necessarily get you all of the features that you would get with a proxy. So the guidance I generally use is like, if you don't own the service, so if it's like a managed database or an external API, definitely use that service entry. But if you do own the service and it's inside a VM that you have access to, Envoy doesn't ultimately take up that many resources, so definitely consider that adding it to your mesh. So use cases, I kind of already alluded to this. it's really any situation where you'd want to have a service in a VM versus in a container. So a lot of the use cases I hear about are related to databases or things that, for security reasons or sort of administrative reasons, you don't want to put it in a container. Legacy apps, hybrid environments. The thing to note about this is if you do add a VM to an Istio mesh, you do need pod IP connectivity. So in the example I'm about to show, it's all in a shared VPC. You would need something like a VPN to get that IP connectivity if you're outside of the network, as well as failover. So you could do a thing where like your VM is actually sort of a backup to what's running in your cluster and use Istio's locality-based load balancing to fail over from one region to another, which is pretty cool. So prerequisites. So in the environment I'm about to show, I have something like this. I've got one project in Google Cloud with a GKE cluster, so Kubernetes cluster, Istio's installed, and then I have a standalone VM. I have full admin privileges on this, which is needed to start up Envoy, and yeah, I have IP connectivity as well. And before I show like the demo of it working sort of in action, it's kind of maybe worth going through exactly how this whole thing works. So on the left, we have a cluster. On the right, we have the VM. I have installed Istio on the cluster. It should be noted, there's other control plane components that happen here. These are the ones that kind of get involved with the VM piece. So we have Pilot for the network configuration, and we have Citadel for the certs, and Ingress Gateway handles the traffic, the control plane traffic coming from the VM. So it's a couple of steps. It's like 5 or 6 steps. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to send over some info to the VM. This includes the root cert for the node agent, as well as the service IP range of the cluster. Then we're going to run this command called istioctl register, which generates a selectorless service, which is just like an endpoint for the VM's IP. We also need to create a service entry. This is a little confusing. Hopefully this changes someday, but we need a service entry as well, pointing to the VM. Then we're going to actually update the DNS on the virtual machine so that traffic going, so like anytime the proxy on the VM needs to get updated config, that traffic's actually going to go through the Ingress Gateway. It could also go through an ILB, like an internal load balancer. The idea behind this is like Pilot and Citadel are not exposed outside of the cluster, so we need a way for the VM to get to that, get to those components. And then next to last, we're going to actually start the Istio remote components on the VM. This is 2 things. It's the remote Citadel component for certs and the proxy. And then the last thing we're going to do is run our services. So I'm going to show a service running in raw Docker on the VM. It could also be a raw executable. And then I have some services in the cluster as well. And it should be noted that like in this configuration, in a one network config, data path traffic does not go through the Ingress Gateway. But if you do not have IP connectivity, you can actually send data path traffic through the Ingress Gateway from the VM. I generally don't recommend this, primarily for like hop and latency reasons, but yeah. Okay, so in this demo that I'm about to show, this is the app that's happening. It's just like it's a front end with some services, and I've taken out one service from the cluster and I've put it onto the VM. So I'm going to show you what that looks like in action. So here we are in sort of my cluster view. We can see that Istio 1.3 is installed and running on our cluster. And all of our services, except for the product catalog, are deployed onto the cluster. And then if I SSH into my VM, I am running the product catalog in with Docker, and it's kind of all set up ahead of time. What's actually happening here, I've sort of scriptified some of this because it can get a bit lengthy. Really the thing to know is this service entry piece. So I've created a service entry for product catalog that's populated with all this info, including the IP of the VM. So like if I get my service entry, we can see all of this is here, and so that routing can go from the cluster services to product catalog, just with that kubedns name, which is helpful. So what this actually looks like in action, like the whole, the product catalog can be served successfully, and in Kiali in the service graph, we can see that instead of showing a triangle for like a Kubernetes native service and deployment, we actually have this internal service entry for the product catalog, which tells us it's actually not running in the cluster, it's running elsewhere, in this case, a VM. And we can see sort of traffic moving to it. And the sort of last piece I'm going to show is a situation where I am going to split traffic between a version of this running in the cluster and the VM version. And in order to do that, I'm actually going to deploy the same service into the cluster, and I'm going to keep what's running in the VM. Wait for this to be sort of running. And then what I'm going to do is actually apply a traffic splitting rule so that 90% of traffic goes to the VM, but I'm starting to send a small increment of the traffic into the version on the cluster. The use case for this is a migration use case. So I maybe have containerized the product catalog and I'm ready to have it run in Kubernetes. It should be said that because of the whole setup around the selectorless service, we actually can't have these two things share a service. We have to have a separate Kubernetes service and a separate destination rule, but they can share a virtual service. So you'll notice that here, like I'm sending, 9010. So what I'm going to do is apply that. And the way to kind of know if this is working, because it's kind of hard to see because it's the same service, we don't really see any change of behavior. But what we should hopefully see here in a second is two product catalogs show up. This one in purple is the one in the VM that's still serving traffic. And then there's going to be one called local that's going to be serving a small percentage of the traffic. And that's backed by a Kubernetes workload. You can also do like encryption, that kind of thing. Really any rule you can do on a container, I'm pretty sure you can do on a VM as well. So exciting times. Just to kind of close out, there's definitely, I think, a good amount of work to be done and is currently happening on the Istio team as far as improvements. So one big caveat right now with this whole process is if traffic is coming from a VM and going into the cluster, or if it's going from a VM to a VM, in the case that you have multiple VMs configured, that traffic does not get tracked. So it won't show up in the service graph. You can't get metrics due to a labeling situation that's happening. Hopefully that problem will go away. Hopefully some of the sort of hands-on config you have to do will be improved. And yeah, we're also working on improving the docs for clarity and discoverability. So yeah, so that's the demo. Thank you. Happy Halloween. And yeah, VMs, come to KubeCon. Thanks.
Thanks, Megan. Actually, I had a quick question. So in this setup, so you have to create a service entry and a kube service at the same time, and the command to register the VM will create the kube service, but not the service entry, correct?
That is correct. I've talked with the Istio team about this a little bit. I'm hoping that so the logic is that hopefully the service entry piece, or one of those two pieces, is going to go away, and Istio CTL will eventually do all of the things.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit annoying right now. So like you can see, to actually get this whole setup working, it's this pretty long script you have to run on your machine. And then there's also like a good amount of setup that has to happen on the VM too, like the whole, DNS stuff. So yeah, I'm a big fan of if I can execute all of this with a script, there's no reason why this can't happen with Istio CTL as well. So I'm definitely advocating for that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's good. This is helpful just to understand exactly how that's working. It's cool to see it. That's the first time I've actually seen the VM expansion integrated into a solution. So that was really neat. And seeing the split with Kiali and the UI was really cool. Love to see that.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate your time.
you have a sec for a question?
Go ahead.
Is there any IP tables changes happening on the VM?
I
Or IP
believe
tables left alone?
Yes. I can actually do a screenshot and maybe put it in the slides. But when you start up Istio, or when you start up the proxy on the VM, I think it's a special remote version of the proxy, and there's definitely some IP table stuff happening because there needs to be a way to intercept that traffic. Like,
right.
I don't think it does it for the pseudo user or for the Istio proxy user, but I think for like the generic user, it does update the IP tables.
Okay, because I figure you either have to change IP tables to capture the traffic, or you just have to configure your application to hit localhost 1500, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if that's running, can you try, like on that host, can you try to send traffic to a Kubernetes cluster IP and have that work without, because normally okay, so that does work, because normally unless you have like the kube proxy IP tables, blah, blah, blah thing, you can't normally use that as an IP address on a VM. So that gets around that problem?
So yeah, there was a version of this demo where actually everything was running in the VM, and due to the metrics problems, I actually abandoned that demo for now. But I did get it working where I was using the kubedns names, and I think that there must be some kind of, so the envoy on each VM is getting populated with endpoints. And if you have the service entry and the service on the cluster, even if the services don't live there, Pilot is still pushing those endpoints to the Envoy proxies. So I'm pretty sure I was able to get the whole setup working, just like it would on a cluster, which was kind of cool.
Very exciting.
Yeah, and in order for that to work, you would have to be in an environment where the workers, or not the workers, but the VMs are on the same network overlay as the pods. Otherwise, the IPs won't resolve properly.
Yeah, you need at least the pod IPs to be able to resolve directly, but the services cluster IPs was the thing that normally doesn't resolve, in at least the way I run Kubernetes.
Correct. Yep. Fair enough.
Cool. Thank you.
Any other questions for Megan? All right. Great. Thank you, Megan. That was awesome.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks all.
Okay, let me see if I can take this back. Hey, it worked. All right, so with that, I'm going to open it up and open the floor to any other questions. I see, Srini, you've got an Istio 1.4.0 beta 0 topic here.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I've been playing around with Istio 1.4 because I wanted to get MTLS working for headless services. And I did see there was some mention about MTLS and headless in the release notes. So what happened was when I installed the 1.4 using the Helm and Tiller combination, it's kind of broken. The Istio init is not working. The charts are not working. I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention here. I think I created an issue, but I don't see anyone responding to it yet.
Yeah, I think it's a well-known issue with Helm. I believe we recommend you to update your Helm. So that was the day that everybody exploded on Twitter because the Helm was for Helm, the particular version of the Helm that's being released. Which version are you using? It was broken.
Yeah, I did go through that issue which you're mentioning, but I'm using the right version, which is mentioned in the Twitter. So I'm using, if I remember, I was using 2.4.3 of Helm, so which is the correct version to be used.
Okay, so yeah. But yeah, I remember 2.4.0 was broken. By the way, in the beta 1, the community has decided, given all the issue with Helm, and we can't control Helm's release using Istio.ctl, there is a command called manifest apply to install Istio now. So if you download beta 1, that is the command to install Istio, and it doesn't have a dependency on Helm now.
So we are planning to release beta 2 today, and with the fix for this Istio.ctl manifest method of installation. So you could try that later today.
Okay. And I also found that the MTLS was not working. I tried using, so initially I started installing the Istio 1.4 using the manual method, which you mentioned. Like I got the source and I was navigating to the source folder and I did the install. But for some reason, MTLS is not working. So then I almost wasted like 1 week scrambling on it. And then I quickly spun up GKE cluster with Istio pre-installed, and MTLS was working on it. Then what I did was I went back to AKS and I installed 1.3.3 version of Istio using Helm and Tiller, and the MTLS works there for the same code. So I have a strong doubt that MTLS is broken in 1.4. I'm not sure if someone validated that in the test day. If not, I would suggest validating that.
Okay, do we know of anyone that's hit this?
I know we have a spreadsheet that tracks what has been tested, so I'm checking on that now.
Yeah, I think I ran into some, I don't know, I don't remember if it was MTLS or TLS. I did run into some issues with that on beta 0.
Yeah, for me, it was, but I'm say down, if you scroll down, I would show you what is happening. So I even created a documentation bug. Usually in 1.3, so there is a documentation bug which I created. And until version 1.3.3 of Istio, when we do a Istio auth check, what happens is under client and server, usually we see MTLS or HTTP, right? The values. And I went into the test cases for Istio control, and I did see the test cases were returning Istio mutual, were returning MTLS or HTTP in the response. However, in 1.4, I think it was CRD10 inside init, which was changed, and there is a enum which actually has, say, definition for strict, Istio mutual, disable, and all these, and these values are getting returned instead of the usual MTLS and HTTP, and the documentation is out of sync. That's the reason I created the documentation bug, and overall, I don't find MTLS working properly. It's kind of broken. Though it is applying strict and Istio mutual, it doesn't restrict anything. It is just allowing the traffic, and it seems to be broken.
Yeah, so I would recommend you file a bug, because I just looked at the spreadsheets. I don't think we have any status or bug on the beta testing as of today.
I will. Previously, I did raise 3 issues under the security in discuss, and there was no response. I will, in addition, create 1 more bug.
Okay, we'll take a look at that. So you're saying that you raised this issue in discuss, but it wasn't responded to?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to take a look at that then.
Yeah, and once you open a bug, can you update the stock and refer to it so that we can follow up with it?
Sure, I would.
Yeah, that'll be helpful. Now, when you said that the communication is allowed to pass, is the client sending clear text?
Yeah, it is sending clear text. I'm not seeing any TLS traffic going on. I used a ksniff, and I was doing a sniff of the traffic in the Envoy proxy. I couldn't see any TLS traffic going on.
Okay.
Okay, and the next item which I had is, so I'm trying to get MTLS working for a headless service, and I'm following this documentation. I couldn't find any other appropriate documentation, because as per this documentation, it says we need to create a service entry for the headless service, which is a specific pod IP, and then also create a HTTP gateway, and we can access the traffic through that, because Istio doesn't inherently support headless out of the box. So I'm not sure if that is true or if it is changed in 1.4. I would seek your expert advice on how to implement it. Are there any samples? Because the documentation doesn't talk about headless services at all.
Yeah, I was just looking at this.
I know there's an issue that covers all the support for statefulness. I'm trying to find that issue for you, and I believe one of our engineer on our team, Mohammed, he has put out a couple of documentation on the FAQ entries related to different type of headless service. Because some of the headless service actually use different configurations.
Yeah, if you see the last 3 weeks of the community meeting, I've been constantly trying to get the headless service working, and been asking multiple queries in the discuss, and I haven't had much help. If someone has a working sample which I can take a look at, that would be great. Any help from the community is much appreciated here.
And just out of curiosity, what is your headless service? What's the implementation that's backing that?
It's just Elasticsearch. I have one part of Elasticsearch and headless service. All I'm trying to do is I'm trying to hit it from a simple endpoint to consume the HTTP. What's happening is it is letting the traffic no matter what. So it does show MTLS implemented on both the services. If I do a Istio auth control, it shows MTLS is implemented, but I'm not supposed to hit the service, right? So what I'm doing is I'm trying to hit the pod, and if I hit the pod, it lets me go through. I'm not sure if it's going through the Envoy or not. And that's why I tried implementing this approach, which is mentioned here. Here they're creating a service entry for the specific pod number and trying to hit the traffic. I tried that. If I do that, none of the traffic is going through.
Yeah, I see that before.
Yeah, the problem I see is the documentation talks about all the regular services, but the Istio documentation doesn't have any mention about the headless at all. And there are no samples out there in the internet. I couldn't find any other than this.
Yeah, so I find a link, I'm going to link to the documentation. It's actually on Preliminary, so. So it's definitely worth you check that out.
So is that part of the Istio docs?
Yeah, it's put in. It's also related to Elasticsearch. That's what you're using, right?
Yeah. If you have that link, if you could paste it here, that would be really helpful. I'm not sure if I looked at it.
Yeah, I just put it in. So that's definitely something you want to check out. I believe there are PR to eliminate the need for you to create a service entry so you don't have to create service entry for each specific part of your stateful set, but I don't know how much it's been tested though.
Okay, and does it have MTLS enabled on this? It works.
It doesn't explicitly.
The whole problem comes.
Dated.
Yeah, so this FAQ unfortunately didn't mention future PI.
Yeah, I try. It works for me without MTLS. The whole problem comes in when the MTLS is in picture.
Yeah, this documentation is very specific to Elasticsearch in this one. That second one, Elasticsearch. Same with Cassandra.
Yeah, the only thing is I don't know if it's
Yeah, but it doesn't. I don't see any MTLS specified here.
No, definitely not. My guess is it's not specified here.
Yeah. So without MTLS, it works. I have no issues. It's just with the MTLS, everything seems to be either completely blocked if I use service entry, or if I don't use it, it's completely letting traffic go through.
Okay, so, and are you saying that with this document, this Medium blog post, the approach that they specified here, did this work for you or no?
No, it did not completely work. What it did is
Okay.
it is blocking me completely. If I remove the service entry, it is opening up all the traffic. So even insecure traffic is going through. So,
Gotcha. Okay, so this is
I've
something
been
that's going to
trying.
be.
Yeah, I've been trying to make it work. If I don't know if I would eventually get it working without community help. However, if I get it working, I will share it in the next community meeting.
Yeah, it would be good. I'm trying to think who's been working on, who would be the best contact with mutual TLS effort, because headless is a little bit of a different beast. We'd have to look at who would be the best person to go help with
Sure.
that.
We can
Yeah,
start with the person who wrote the FAQ pages and have him, that's Mohammed from IBM,
Yeah.
and have him just test it again with mutual TLS, see if he's able to recreate any of these issues.
Okay.
Yeah, and then go from there.
Yeah, I just came here.
Okay.
Tested with mutual TLS. Because I think, yeah, it will take some validation on website just to make sure we can reproduce first. There's a lot of fixes went into headless in 1.3.
Right. Understood. And this is testing on 1.4 beta 0, so hopefully we didn't regress.
It doesn't work
Okay.
on 1.3.3 either. I tested on both.
Okay.
And didn't
So
you have?
if you want me to connect with whoever is working on it, yeah, I'm glad to connect and share my findings. And also, if required, once everything works, I can even update the documentation and contribute back to the community.
Yeah, that'd be great. So, Lynn, can you get him, just connect Mohammed with him?
Can you ping me on Slack somehow so we have your contact?
You want my contact?
Yeah, just in case we need to reach out to you, we can feel free.
Sure.
Also, we can follow up in GitHub too. There is actually a GitHub item that Ram sent to me, which I'm going to list here, because we know a bunch of applications that's not compatible with Istio, so that particular issue is an effort that we're trying to track it in the community, that we know some of these are not working.
Yeah, I'm updating my email right here next to my name. That way you can reach me if required.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, or you can just, ping Lynn in Slack if you don't want to put your email on the back.
Yeah, it's for privacy, which is the same reason I didn't want to. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we'll get connected on that one. We'll connect you with Mohammed, and we'll see if we can't help push that one forward for you.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Really
any other items? Any other items people want to bring up?
Yeah, I do have a question.
Sure.
This is John, and the question is, if I recall correctly, Citadel used to have Vault's backend support, and I think it is removed right now. Like, I would like to learn more about the status of that project, why it got removed.
Which thing that's removed? I didn't catch that.
Vault integration with Citadel.
Vault integration. Yeah, from what I heard is we didn't have enough time to test it, and it wasn't working when 1.3 was released.
Okay, and like, will it be re-added later on, or?
I don't know the confirmation. That was my impression because I actually asked the same question too.
Yeah, because it was found for me. I Googled it, and I have only seen a few archived documents regarding that, but there was no information at all.
Yeah, so are you using SDS mode in Istio? I assume you're on 1.3 also?
No, we are not using an SDS mode right now. I was just looking into that out of curiosity. It is not something really critical. I was we were considering it when we start going towards multi-cluster environments, but again, it is just a question out of nowhere.
Yeah, and this is specifically the Volt integration, not so much the plugin support to offload, but specifically with the Volt integration, correct?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that being a testing limitation.
Yeah, I think it's a temporary statement, so it just didn't work when Web3 went out.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, it is temporarily if you look at our release notes.
But we don't have an indication of when it will come back in.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll have to watch for that one. We want to get that one pulled back in again, as Lynn said, temporary restriction due to issues found when releasing Istio 1.3.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I pasted the issue in there where it was removed. So yeah, maybe worth adding a comment on there, saying that you're looking for this feature to be in the next release, so we can look at it again.
Okay. Any other items people want to bring up? Okay. So with that, thank everyone for joining. Also, happy Halloween. Go trick-or-treating. Hopefully you don't get rained on like us on the East Coast.
Thanks for hosting, Dan.
They're rescheduling for tomorrow. Trick-or-treating.
No way.
Oh, at least in my neighborhood. I don't know.
Oh, wow. I didn't know they could reschedule trick-or-treating. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you.